She was forced to sit alone at her sister's wedding, until a single dad said, "Act like you're with me." The laughter echoed through the decorated hall, the kind of laughter that feels like it belongs to everyone but you. Amelia tried to smile as she adjusted her pale blue bridesmaid dress. Her sister, Harper, was radiant, the kind of bride magazines dream about. Everyone adored her. Amelia was happy for her, or at least she wanted to be. But every time she tried to join a conversation, she caught the same look, the polite half-smile that says, "You don't really belong here." Her relative still whispered behind champagne glasses, "She's still single? Didn't her fiancé leave her last year? Poor thing, sitting all alone." The wedding planner had accidentally placed her name card at the singles table, tucked away at the corner, beside the buffet, close enough to see the dance floor, but far enough to feel invisible. As couples danced under fairy lights, Amelia stared at her untouched glass of sparkling cider. Her hands trembled slightly, not from sadness but from embarrassment. That's when she heard a deep voice beside her. "Is this seat taken?" She looked up. A man stood there, maybe in his mid-30s, tall, kind eyes, slightly messy hair, the kind that doesn't try too hard. He wore a gray suit with a loosened tie and held a little boy's hand. "No," Amelia said quietly. "It's all yours." He smiled, settling his son onto the chair. "Good. I'm Jake, and this little tornado is Ethan. My cousin's the groom. You, Amelia, bride's sister." Jake nodded, then leaned closer. "Listen, you look like you could use a rescue. People keep giving you that 'oh, poor thing' look. Want me to pretend we came together?" Amelia blinked, caught off guard. "What?" He grinned. "Just act like you're with me. I've got a kid. Everyone assumes I'm the responsible one anyway." She laughed for the first time that night. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe, but it's working. Look, they already stopped staring." It was true. The judgmental glances had turned into approving smiles. The gossipy ants were whispering something new now, their eyes wide with curiosity. For the first time in hours, Amelia relaxed. They chatted, laughed, shared stories about Jake's life as a single dad, about Amelia's small-town childhood, about the dreams they'd both quietly put on hold. When the slow music began, Ethan tugged Jake's sleeve. "Daddy, dance with her." Amelia's heart warmed as Jake stood, extended his hand, and said softly, "You heard the boss." They danced under the same fairy lights that once made her feel lonely. The laughter around them no longer hurt. It felt alive, warm, human. Midway through the song, Jake leaned in and whispered, "You know, you don't need anyone's approval to belong. You're already enough." Something in Amelia broke, and then healed all at once. By the end of the night, she wasn't just the sister sitting alone. She was the woman who danced, laughed, and smiled again, not because someone rescued her, but because someone reminded her she still mattered. As the crowd began to leave, Jake picked up Ethan, who had fallen asleep on his shoulder. "It was nice pretending," he said. Amelia smiled. "Yeah, it was." He paused, then added, "Maybe next time. We don't have to pretend." And before she could reply, he was gone, leaving her heart full of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the hotel window as Amelia sat with a cup of coffee, replaying the night in her mind. It wasn't just the dance, and it was the way Jake looked at her, not with pity but with quiet understanding. No one had looked at her like that since, before her engagement fell apart. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Harper. "Everyone's talking about you and the guy from the groom's side. You looked happy last night. I'm proud of you, sis." Amelia smiled faintly. For once, the gossip didn't sting. It didn't matter anymore. Still, she couldn't shake the thought of Jake and his little boy. The way Ethan giggled mid-dance, the way Jake's eyes softened whenever he looked at his son. She opened the wedding group chat, scrolling through pictures, and there he was. A candid photo someone had taken. Jake laughing, Ethan asleep in his arms, and Amelia smiling beside them. Something about it felt right. A week later, Amelia was at a small cafe downtown working on her laptop. when a familiar voice said, "I swear I'm not stalking you." She looked up. Jake stood there, holding 2 coffees and that same crooked grin. "Jake?" she said, surprised. "Yeah, turns out the universe wanted us to run into each other. Again." They talked for hours about life, parenthood, heartbreak, second chances. He told her how his wife had left when Ethan was 2. She told him how her fiancé had chosen someone less complicated. Pain had carved both of them in different ways, but maybe that's what made them recognize each other's souls so easily. When they finally said goodbye, Jake slipped a small note across the table. Next time, it's not pretend. Weeks turned into months. They started meeting more. Coffee on Mondays, park walks on Saturdays, shared dinners with Ethan, drawing superheroes at the table. Jake never rushed her. Amelia never forced anything. It was slow, natural, healing. One afternoon, as autumn leaves danced around them, Ethan ran ahead in the park, chasing his toy plane. Amelia turned to Jake, smiling. "He's growing up fast." Jake looked at her, really looked. "He's not the only one." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "The woman I met sitting alone at that wedding, she doesn't exist anymore. You've changed. You smile now, like you finally believe you deserve it." Amelia's throat tightened. "Maybe I do," she whispered. Jake smiled softly. "You always did." Months later, Harper called. "Amelia, we're having a family dinner next week. Bring someone if you want." For the first time, Amelia didn't dread it. She looked over at Jake and Ethan playing with building blocks and said, "I think I will." When they arrived at the dinner, the same aunts who once whispered now looked stunned, not because of who she brought, but because of the woman she'd become, confident, kind, whole. At the table, Ethan whispered to her, "Daddy said you're our favorite person." Tears filled her eyes. She squeezed his hand and smiled. "You're mine too." That night as they drove home, Jake reached over, brushing his fingers against hers. "You know," he said quietly, "sometimes the best things start when you're sitting alone and someone decides to sit with you." Amelia turned to him, eyes glistening. "Or when someone tells you to pretend, and you end up feeling something real." They both laughed, soft, genuine, full of gratitude. Because sometimes, life doesn't need grand miracles, just a moment of unexpected kindness that rewrites the story you thought was over.